Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast explores the transition to net zero and the systems driving real change in how we move, live and power our world. Every week I sit down with the people leading that change, those offering insight, innovation and impact in many ways people don't fully see until they hear their stories. If you're ready for real conversations that inspire action and drive change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey. And let's cut through the noise and build a better future together. Hi everybody and welcome back to Electric Evolution. This week I have Peter Higgins with me and he is one of the EV project officers at Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Peter, thank you ever so much for joining me. It's just lovely to talk to you on here and we've spoken quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yeah,
it's all right. Nice. And we did actually meet face to face a few weeks ago at a Cenex event in Newport. I wasn't expecting you to be there, and I don't think you were expecting me to be there either, were you? But that was a really good event, and lots of local authorities there.
Yeah, it was a great event. Yeah.
But we're going to be talking today about some of the work that you've been doing in Stoke and the consortium that you're working with the local authorities. But let's start, as I usually do, with a little bit of your background. Let's talk about you. So before you became, EV project officer, what did you do?
So before this role, I've been with Stoke Council for, checks date, tries to do maths, 14, 15 years.
God, a long time.
Yeah, primarily in adult social care as a responder, so sort of first aider for adult social care. But within that role, I sort of got attached to other projects, other initiatives, some official, some unofficial. Some it was just me sticking my oar in.
Yeah.
And putting myself in and that. So, but then whilst I was in that job, I decided that it's not really the career I wanted to be in. So did a degree with the Open University, distance learning in environmental management and technology, which led me with the vision of getting a role like this. And then the job came up with Stoke Council still. Applied and that's where I am now.
That's fantastic. I am going to mention, and I said to you I'd mention this, there is another job that you've had that is, you said to me is your hobby, which is as a theatre technician for Ambassador Theatre Group. Tell us, come on, you've got to fill us in a little bit about what that's all about.
Well, I have been accused of having theatre kid energy. I don't know what that means, but
you're a bit of a lovey darling, is that what it is?
Possibly, yeah. So I've been it's always been a bit of a hobby, bit of a passion, but it's luckily it's a hobby that I get paid for just from doing a bit of a casual work backstage for the local theatres.
So go on. What? I mean, we're going to talk about your main role, but what do you do for this then?
Primarily for them, it's so when we're a receiving house, which is the technical term in theatre. So it's when shows go on tour.
Yeah.
A receiving house just receives the show, so it doesn't put on the show.
Right.
So stuff like the RSC down in Stratford would be a production house because they put on the show. They design the show, they make the show, they put on the show. We're a receiving house, so we just receive shows. So it'd be putting the shows in. So they all arrive on the back of many trailers. And then it's building the set, putting up the lights and the sound, and then at the end of the run, taking it all back out again and putting it back into trailers.
So you're kind of involved in all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I don't do any show work for them because I've got a full-time job. But just as a bit of a casual work now and again, I'll put a theatre set into a building and then. Wow. A week after, take it all out again.
I love that. It's all because it was funny. Just before we were recording, I was literally looking through LinkedIn and I was kind of going, "My God, I didn't know you did that." And I love to hear. The things that people kind of do aside from their regular job. I mean, nobody unless they know me really well knows that I've just got my Reiki 2 qualification. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that people just don't find out, So that's brilliant. brilliant. I love that.
It's always nice to
So,
have a side hustle as well.
well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, not yet. But so let's talk now about the role that you're in at Stoke, the consortium that you've been kind of working with, and sort of the type of the type of work that you've been doing as EV project officer, because you're specializing now, aren't you? But we weren't originally, maybe?
No, no. So I was brought in at the start. Well, no, not the start of the Levi. So in Stoke, we're part of two Levi projects. We've got the Levi pilot, and then the main Levi funding that's coming through as well. So it's all consortium based. So we're grouped together with other local councils. So I was brought in sort of halfway through the Levi pilot. So the charging point operator had already been appointed,
Yeah.
and we were just commencing the delivery phase, the planning and delivery phase of the pilot.
Okay.
And then we've also got the main tranche of the
Yes.
funding coming through as
Yeah.
well, which will be a completely different CPO. Well, maybe a completely different CPO because it's another tender process. And that's ongoing at the moment, so there's very little I can say about that legally.
Don't worry. No, I wasn't going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you those questions.
But then part of the original plan for the main tranche was to take 10% of our total funding to put into Cross-Pavement. And that's where,
And that's your specialism,
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
then, yeah, I was sort of interested in that. I bit the proverbial bait on that, and I've ended up,
People who kind of already know you know your specialism, and you've done a lot of work on the cross pavement solution side, haven't you? Because, and we were talking before we started recording, because I think it's really important to maybe start off by addressing the kind of the questions that you started off with, because there are still a number of local authorities who find the idea of installing channels not necessarily the right thing to do. I wasn't thinking the right thing to do in that. I was thinking more of from a health and safety angle. But you've covered all of this, haven't you? Just give us a
yeah.
little bit of a background about what you've done in the run up to deciding, about how many cross pavement solutions were going in.
So the full story is we identified early on that we needed a system that addresses the current inequity between EV ownership for people who have got drives and can charge at home and people who haven't. That was the big driving decision behind all of it.
And is there a lot of that? Is there a lot of kind of driveless houses in Stoke?
Massively, yeah. Depending on which survey or statistics you look at, it's somewhere between 30 and 57%. 57%
Don't
being
have.
one, yeah, that
Yeah,
don't
you
have
see.
access to off-street
Yeah,
parking.
yeah. That's a
So,
lot.
yeah, I mean, I live in a terraced house myself, so it's quite personal for me as well. I know the issue, and
Absolutely.
I know how much of a barrier it is to EV ownership. Because a lot of people, if they've got no means of charging at home, they won't get an EV, and we're working massively hard to try and push, EVs to help climate change, but also help air quality.
Yes. Yeah.
People always forget that the focus is so high on CO2 emissions, and people forget about the health
They think about
implications
they forget
for it
about
as
what they're
well.
breathing in when
Yeah.
they're walking past a
And I
petrol or a
think
diesel car,
one of my
don't they?
favourite stats, which is probably a few years old now, back when I was doing my degree, it was 40,000 people in the UK have early deaths attributed to air pollution every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So, and
It's
that costs
scary.
NHS and social services billions, absolute billions. So it's a massive thing that needs to be addressed. And if giving people gullies to help ease ownership for the big chunk of people in the country, because I think nationally it's 25% of people.
But you've got those pockets, like you're saying, of numbers where the housing stock is terraced and there's no drives, like you say, and all that kind of stuff. So we can't really use the whole of the UK as that stat, can we? We've got to look at those individual pockets of of where the housing stock is specifically kind of driverless, not driverless,
And in areas like Stoke, the lack of off-street parking is so closely tied to household income that it does sort of then start to get a little bit political almost.
Yeah.
Where like not being able to charge your car at home almost becomes a bit of a poverty tax.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just think, we've, like I say, I think what you're doing, and we'll go into this in more detail, is brilliant, and I really, really hope that people who are watching and listening, if you know local authorities where they're not putting gullies in yet, or not putting cross-pavement solutions in yet, please go talk to them and get them to talk to Pete, because the stuff that you've done, and let's talk about that now, if we can. It's brilliant, the stuff you've done. So that from that decision, right, you kind of decided on this 10%. What were the first things that you had to think of when you were looking at? So you're talking about, you've got your 57% of housing stock that's not got driveways. You're looking at those issues, and then you decided on the gullies. But didn't you say to me initially that you weren't sure, because if you don't know much about the gullies in the first place, you've got to look into them. So what were the next steps for you then?
So actually, before the gullies, we'd briefly looked at cable covers as well, mats.
Oh right, okay. What you mean, like the high vis ones?
Yeah,
okay.
And there were some that were actually quite good, quite shallow with a good chamfering of edge to them. But we decided, I consulted with our social care occupational therapists, at Stoke, and we sort of came to the same conclusion that 1 every 10 households probably wouldn't be a problem. But if there was 10 in a row for somebody in a wheelchair, it would then be somewhat of an obstacle. So it may have been a solution for now, but it won't be a solution for the future, and we needed something scalable and permanent.
Yes.
That's when we started looking at gullies proper. And I basically looked at the market to look what was available, all the different solutions. Luckily, all of them are completely flush with the pavement, so that was a big plus from the accessibility point of view. And we could see that there was 4 solutions. They all effectively do the same thing, i.e., get a cable from one side of the pavement to the other, but in very different methods and means. So, and again, it was going back to the accessibility front. No one solution is inherently accessible, because people's accessible needs differ so wildly.
Yeah.
What might be easy for one person who has some sort of mobility or accessibility needs is going to be vastly different from somebody else. So the decision was to give the residents, as much as possible, the choice for the product that's going to suit their needs the most.
Yeah.
And that was another big driving factor. Again, it goes back to that sort of equity. Everything sort of circles back to equity all the time. So addressing them, there are, you do think of some safety issues. The ODS gully system, initially I was quite wary of, because it's an open channel. And
okay, yes, because it's got a brush across the top of the channel, hasn't it?
Yeah. But then when we went down to Oxfordshire to see some of them actually in the ground, it was the first time I've ever seen. Well, probably not the first time I've seen them, but the first time I've noticed them, the old Victorian rain channels.
Yeah, they've got them in Oxford.
I've probably seen them thousands of times before in different
just
cities
not thought
across
about it.
the country. But yeah, you don't think about it, do you?
We've had
Which
them for
is
years, haven't we? Yeah,
oh
like
yeah,
you say.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
testament really to how good that technology is, because you never see it, you never notice it.
No,
And it was
I've seen them myself when I've been through
yeah,
Oxford and just went,
yeah.
oh, look, there's a
Oh,
rain
now I
channel.
notice them all the time because I'm really
Yeah.
sad.
Don't worry, we all get geeky. I get you.
Yeah, and there was so there was a gully about 4 foot away from a Victorian rain channel, and just seeing
Right.
those two side by side and how similar they were, it was a proper light bulb moment of like, oh yeah, these are really not an issue at all, because they're there, and something similar to these have been in the pavements, thousands of them for decades and decades, probably even longer if they're the Victorian ones, and they're clearly not an issue because they're still there.
Yeah.
And councils are so risk averse by nature, and we have to be.
Yeah.
Really,
I
it's
get you. I get you. But I was
the
going to say, but you did your homework, didn't you? Because so what are the things that you were worried about? Because there's sort of like issues or worries about kind of the electrical impact on a
yeah,
street that's going to have. So if you've got a terrace street, like you say, 10
mm,
houses on there, X number of, kind of, if you're giving people the ability to charge their vehicles from home, because it's blooming cheap, isn't it?
yeah,
Charging you,
yeah. Yeah,
charging
so
from
much
home, it
cheaper.
makes it so much easier. And like you said about that equity
Mm.
piece, what are the worries about the electrical side of things that you've managed to get over or
So
understand at least?
yeah, the big one, the big stumbling block was the IET, electrical separation, saying that any earthed component of an electrical system has to be outside of simultaneous contact touch, which is 2.5 meters. So
Okay.
it just,
What does
so
that
it just
mean in
means
English?
so it just means that if somebody was in the middle of two earthed components, so something that could potentially carry a charge,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to touch both of them at the same time.
Right. Get you. I get you. Unless you had Mr. Tickle Arms
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Go Gadget Arms or something, but you wouldn't want to do that anyway. Right.
No.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
the distance that it's set for that is 2.5 meters,
right.
which is outside of most
So
people's span.
in order for you to get to the point where because it has to go. So when you put in a channel in, it has to go for planning permission, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh no, the channel doesn't. It's the charger that does.
Ah, that's it.
Common misconception.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but what so okay, so what are the steps that you had to go through with regards to making sure that all of these channels were fit for purpose? Because you've not got any in yet, have you? But you've
Well,
got some
yeah, we'll
going in
have
next
some
week, haven't
going
you?
in. Hope, touch wood, next week will be the first ones going in under supervision of the gully companies, because we're doing the
Okay.
groundworks ourselves in Stoke,
I
which,
was going to say, so let's come back.
yeah,
Let's come back to the you guys
yeah,
doing it because that needs that we need to kind of go over that one. But keep staying on that sort of like the electrical side.
mm.
Are there other things other than the recognition of those regular? So is there anything in the regs, the electrical regs, any other things that you had to have a look at?
So that one's the biggie. So the issue is it's how you not get around that, because that's the wrong terminology, but it's
Yeah.
like how you adapt that to the real world. So the big one, the first one, was ensuring that if two properties share the same earth, then it's not different. So the 2.5 electrical separation thing only applies to differential earths. But if yeah, I know, it's this is where it gets very very
Yeah, I
technical.
know, flipping heck.
So if two properties, so new builds, when they build new builds,
Yeah,
they are all connected to the same earth source, the same substation.
get you. I get you. Okay,
So
so yeah,
that's
yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
you can have on new build properties a charger, which is regulation now.
Yeah.
Chargers on the two houses, even though the drives are close together. So those two cars on charge will be within the 2.5 meters, but that's allowed because the houses are on the same earth source.
Okay.
And the same with, bizarrely, we allow this with also with semi-detached houses that were built in the 50s, 60s.
That's ours.
Yeah.
Well, we're not semi, but ours is the 50s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So technically there's electrical regulations that cover that, but there's no planning. It's still permitted development.
Oh, do you know all of these different regulations that you guys have to think of as a local authority? It makes it quite complicated. Do you think that's the reason why some of the local authorities aren't up for going through the whole gully
Yes.
malarkey?
The short answer, yes. It's the planning permission required for the home charger, which is the big stumbling block. Because, like I say, you live in a semi. My mum and dad do. It's like the way I always envisaged it was my mum and dad's property. It's a semi-detached, but they have drives next to each other. So there is nothing legally stopping their and their neighbour getting a charger fitted, and their cars being within the 2.5 meters of separation. But nobody cares about that, either legally or elsewhere. Everybody accepts that that's just a done thing, and that occurs. Even that, like, new builds are different because we can categorically say that they are connected to the same substation.
Yes.
So that was my first avenue of looking into it. Like, so if it's allowed over here in situation A, why is it such an issue for situation B? For me. And for the residents of Stoke who live in terraced properties who might not be able to get it if their neighbour does. So, luckily, not luckily at all, I was on one of the Senex courses and they mentioned that you can get, if you're an LA officer like me, you can get access to the National Grid. It is in Stoke, so the DNO mapping systems. So I can now see if terraced properties are wired to the same earth source.
Oh wow! God,
which most of them should be. Realistically speaking and logically speaking, most terrace houses are built in a row at the same time. They're going to be earth to the same point, but it's nice to check.
So you've had to do all of this then to actually kind of get to the point then where you could go ahead with the channels. Did you have to kind of have a consultation with the residents as well? How did that go? Because I suppose my question really is, how many people wanted the channels? Did people know about gullies?
Yep. So even before I came into role, we'd had a handful of inquiries from members of the public that had just sat in a email box unanswered because we didn't have a solution for it yet. And then obviously as I've been in post, a lot of this wasn't advertised. It was just organic inquiries like before, but there has been more and more and more come through with people who either have had an EV through work as a company car and want to charge it at home, or people who want to make the change and feel like they can't because they can't charge at home. Or people who have and have then been frustrated that it's costing them so much at public charge points, and or they're having to rely entirely on workplace chargers, which are great for 90% of the time, but then that 10% where they really want to charge at home, they can't. So it's just to circle back onto the electrical separation as well. And again, this is all research that's been done because there isn't really the evidence, the information out there. There was, in fact, no, tell a lie. There was a IET guidance document on it which stated open pen fault protection, which I won't get into the technicalities of. And again, I'm not an electrician, so I've had to sit down and have conversations with Stoke's main electrical engineer to get them to explain a lot of this to me. So that basically removes any sort of live neutral fault, which would be an earthing fault. So even if there are two properties on different earth sources, or a property and a lamppost, because some lampposts are earthed differently, not in Stoke,
Okay.
because again, I've had that confirmed and I can see it on the maps as well. I can see it on the mapping system that all our lampposts are earthed to the same as the properties as well, same substation.
God.
That's another consideration. So again, so other councils, if they can get access to their own mapping systems, obviously National Grid, I can guarantee they've got them. I'm aware that others do as well, but I don't know which ones because, quite frankly, it doesn't concern me. I don't need to
You've had
remember
to,
that.
but you've had to do all of this to get to this point. But you've got a lot of this written down anyway, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, and if anybody wants information, they can always. I will answer any questions. I have done already. I've already spoken to various councils up and down the country, and yeah,
Because you've done the hard work. So actually, if you can point people, it's always good if you've got somebody who can point other people in the right direction, and you're that
absolutely,
person
yeah.
for this, aren't
And
you?
I've borrowed information when I first started as well, because there was other councils that were ahead of me, such as Nottinghamshire, Oxfordshire, were already ahead of me in certain ways. So I've copied their homework, and now people can copy mine.
But you've pulled it together though into some format that
Yeah,
it's not on
yeah,
internet, is it? But
no,
you can contact
yeah,
Peter, and I will share your LinkedIn profile details in the show notes
yes,
so
yeah.
people can contact you.
You
Let's
can
go
share my
back.
work email as well if you want as well. I've
Yeah,
got no problem with
okay.
that. People can
Well, oh
contact me
my
directly.
goodness. We'll see about that one.
Yeah, we'll see that.
But what I was going to say was, let's go back to what you were saying about your decision to, as a council or as a consortium, to install yourselves,
So
to install the
yeah,
gullies, install the cross
yeah.
channels yourselves.
So the gullies is just the Stoke Council thing. It's that's not consortium
Right.
related at all.
Okay.
That's the main funding for it originally came from consortium funding from the Levi funding, but as
Yes.
a council we opted to take
That's
10%.
yours.
Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
anything gully related is just Stoke-on-Trent, and yeah, the other consortium members can't be blamed or can't be blamed for it.
That's all right. I mean, you know what your housing stock is. You know
Yeah.
what you're talking about because you've done all that, like I say, all the hard work. So what happens with regards to the installation? Can you just kind of talk us through a little bit about, because you said that you're going to be installing them, but initially it starts with the organisation that's providing
Yeah.
the gully, isn't it?
Yeah, so the gully providers are literally just providers for us. That's their only involvement. Apart from the first couple of installs, they have said that they are going to send their own engineers up just to let us know from their lessons learned how best to install their product, which makes sense, really. So
Yeah.
they're just doing that as a one-off, so it'll be a one-off install, just a real-world instructional.
Because
But
are
then
the
after that,
other channels width and depth, are they mostly the same for across all of the
no,
channel providers?
they're all different. Yeah,
Are
they're all
they?
got different widths and depths.
Okay.
But there's only four of them, and it'll be just four different methods, really, for each one. That's all. And the cost actually isn't that much different as well, because the biggest cost for groundworks is actually getting a team out there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest cost, actually. Making a cut in the pavement that big or 3 times as big, you're still using the circular saw for the same amount of time. You still the backfill might be a little bit different, but again, that's pennies when we're talking about pounds. Like the main cost is actually just getting the crew there in the first place, and all the associated costs that go with it, such as like the permits and
I can
permitting.
imagine. Yeah, all
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff.
But by
And
doing it ourselves, we negate the need for the Section 50. So if
Explain what Section
no,
50
yeah,
is
the
then.
Section 50 is basically just a license to dig up the highway, so the
Get ya.
pavement in this
Yeah.
instance.
Again, people like me and probably other people watching and listening don't realise in every case, what these
Hmm.
all of the things, all of the hoops you have to jump through in
Yeah,
order to get these things done. So when things may take a little bit of time to get sorted, that's the reason, isn't it?
yeah,
It's because you've got all of these things these things to do, but you've got I would call it a process map, really, of do that and then I do that and then these things and da 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 da. Oh,
yeah,
you go off that way, so
yeah. Well, I
it's
do actually have a process map if we want to.
good on you. Yay. That's my improvement geeky head coming on. Oh, I love it. I love it.
So yeah,
So,
so if we do everything as an authority, it means we have complete ownership of that as well.
yeah,
We try and make it as similar to a drop curb as possible.
get ya.
And all
Okay.
along, yeah, all the conversations I've had with our highways team are all circles back to that. It's just like a drop curb. So
Okay.
the resident may be paying for it, but in the future the resident will be paying for it. Right now it's funding, but the resident doesn't own the piece of equipment. It's adopted into the highway, much like a drop curb is adopted into the
Oh,
highway. Whilst the gully might be the decision of the resident, and in a post-funding environment, they will be paying for it
yeah.
in the same way that they pay for a drop curb. It's going to be adopted into the highway in exactly the same way as drop curb will. So the council will own the asset in the pavement.
Okay. So what? Hang on. Even if the resident pays for it,
Hmm.
that'll be yours. But because I
Yeah,
suppose they're paying for it when it in future they're paying for it for it's their benefit, but you're doing
yeah,
it. You've got to pay. Yeah, I get it. I
yeah,
get it. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Again,
So
exactly like a drop curb is.
yeah, yeah. I suppose I've never had to have a drop curve put in,
Yeah,
so I didn't realize about all of these different things. Blimey. But you're looking at 300 installations, aren't you, across these
yes,
four providers?
yeah,
So how did you decide on these locations? Obviously, like you said, you had contact from a number of residents, didn't you, to
yeah.
kind of ask about installs. But what about the other places that you're installing in? How did you decide
So
where they're going to be?
it will be entirely customer led, resident led.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got the natural organic inquiries that came in. Occasionally, we are releasing comms basically on our social media channels, the council's social media channels, to advertise it. Once we've got the first few in the ground, we'll then approach the local press to get things advertised that way. And I'm
Yeah.
also working with some of the car sales places in Stoke, so to get their
Okay.
salesmen, making them
Oh,
aware of what it offers. Because I approached one, and the first two questions they ask when somebody comes in looking for a new car is how many miles do you do, and have you got a drive, to see if they are appropriate for an EV, because they've
yeah.
got sales targets to sell
Yeah, yeah,
EVs.
yeah.
So it's now a little bit of education now, just to remove that question of do you have a drive, because now it doesn't matter. Anybody
Yeah.
can anybody can have an EV basically now. So that was a bit of an eye opener to see, like, that was such a massive question for the car sales places. You'd think that they just want to sell cars even if they weren't appropriate. But yeah, the fact that they were asking that question to potential customers, and maybe even messing up with their own targets for the sake of, well, if you haven't got a
Haven't
drive
got
and
a
EV's
drive.
not for you,
Yeah.
says a lot about how much of a stumbling block
But
that is.
some places don't. Some dealerships don't even ask that question.
No,
Because I met an Uber driver. This is a few months ago now, and I might have talked about this before. And he were at a charger in West London, and basically the Uber driver, he said, I live in a flat, and I don't know how many stories it was, but he was on like the third floor. And he said, nobody asked me whether I had to drive or whether I'd be at a charge. So he was having to use public charging all the time, and it was costing him an arm and a leg. And he was kind of saying, if I'd have known, I might have done something a bit different, which is a real shame, because if they'd have just, asked those questions. But I'm glad you've been going and asking about, talking to dealerships, because I think some of this is just about education, isn't it? And like you say, getting those comms out and talking to people about the potential of what gullies can give you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're working with Motability as well, because they're the biggest provider of lease vehicles in the UK.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, we really want to help those people out, because they're the people, with the most vulnerable. And, we can put all the public charging infrastructure in the world in place and, have it a 5-minute walk away, but that 5 walk might not really be achievable for somebody with mobility issues.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't want to put everyone in the same basket, but it might not
be. Financially, if people are kind of, I'm not trying to be too generalizing here, but I've interviewed a chap on here previously, and financially it's difficult. A lot of the time when somebody, I've got my friend's brother. He kind of works part-time. He's in a wheelchair. Yes, he's got to drive, so it's a bit different, but not everybody does. No. And you can't, like you said, it's got to be equitable. This, hasn't it? We've got to make sure that this is equitable, and people at all levels can charge and do it as cheaply as possible. And yes, public charging is important, but it's only part of the overall number of different solutions. You can't say one size fits all.
No, that's it. There's no silver bullet. There's never a silver bullet. Especially when you're replacing one established technology with another, there's very rarely a silver bullet. It's got to be an entire suite of options. And the same thing happened with the car when we were replacing horses.
Exactly.
Somebody would have a horse, and that horse could do everything for them. It could pull the cart, it could take them to places, it could plough the field for them. It could, it was a multi-purpose tool. And then we replaced it with a car, and now somebody might need a car, they might need a van, they might need a tractor to do exactly the same jobs that one horse could do.
Yes.
It's the same now. We're replacing the fuel station with a new technology. And there's no silver bullet, there's no direct replacement. It takes an entire suite of technologies in order to do that. And we can see that on, slight tangent, because I'm a fan of a tangent. It's the same with renewable energy as
Don't
well.
worry, I get you. I'm the same. Everybody knows who's been watching and listening to this for a long time. I call it my spicy tangent. I'm great at doing a spicy tangent.
It's exactly the same with renewable technology. We're replacing, long-established fossil fuel generation, electrical generation technology, and it will need an entire suite of options to replace that. We can't just rely on solar or just wind or just tide, any of these. It's going to be it's a package deal, basically, to replace it. So
And it's exciting as well, actually moving to different things. And, well, I mean, I know lots of people don't like change, but obviously, because part of my job, I love seeing different things happening. Because if we stayed the same all the time, wouldn't it be really boring if there was no innovation?
As well, without innovation, without change, we'd still be living in caves.
We'd still be on that horse, and you would still be in the horse and cart. Do you know what I mean? I'd just have my horse parked at the end of my drive. So yeah. What, like I say, I think it's brilliant. So those 300 gullies, how are they tending to be split across, or how, because you'll have your list of where they're all going to go, and you're going to get your guys in there and do all their their kind of, their channel works and stuff like that. Are you that 57% you talked about earlier of houses that don't have driveways? Are you trying to cover as much of that 57% as possible? I know it's not always possible with the funds you've got, and 300 might not, but how far do you feel you're getting, or you're going to be getting with
Luckily,
that?
luckily the spread is already quite even. So we've got 30 already good to go. And those are quite nicely evenly spread around the city, which is good. Politically we're split into 3 constituencies: north, central and south, and we've got would-be gullies in all of those constituencies. I can already see one particular area in Stoke-on-Trent getting a little bit more attention than the rest, but that's because it's a slightly more affluent area, so you'll expect that, because those, even though it's terraced, it's a slightly more affluent terraced area than some others. And obviously the areas where there's going to be more taxi ownership, they're likely going to be one of the early adopters as well, because it makes more economic sense for them, basically, to switch to EV and therefore charge at home as well. It's a double whammy for them. We get sort of stuck in a environmental bubble sometimes. Some people do, and we think it's the most important issue in the world, and it might be, very well might be, but we forget that a lot of people, they only care about the change in the pocket.
Of course they do.
And
absolutely,
that's such a big driver of change, just day to day, because it's it's a tough old life, isn't it? And people live month to month, week to week, and if you can make that a little bit easier for them, then that's massive. That the amount of change you can offer just by and as a byproduct, it's also better for the environment and better for air quality. So it's like a triple win.
Exactly.
So,
I suppose really. So you've just got me thinking. Then going back to the whole equity side of stuff, and it's funny because I don't know whether I might have said this a few weeks back. There was a video by. A bit of a skit video by Zaptec, which I thought was brilliant. I don't know whether you saw it, where there was a guy with a mobile petrol station on the back of his truck, kind of thing, and it made me laugh so much, because they were sort of skitting the fact that we're going to try and install petrol stations at your house, kind of thing. So it did make me laugh. But what I suppose the question is, you've still got that resident has still got to buy a charger, haven't they? So when the gully goes in, and then they've still got to buy a charger. How is that something that you as Stoke Council can advise them on? How does it work? Because I know that, say for example, if I'm right, I might be, somebody can correct me afterwards. I have a feeling like there are certain energy companies that will, if say for example, I don't want to mention who, because I might get it wrong, where you can kind of buy a charger on finance.
I'm aware of that as well. Again, I'm not allowed to name any brand names.
No. No, exactly. So I suppose because that is a cost in itself, isn't it?
That's it. And even stuff like you can buy most things on finance now, can't you? Even like if it's when you make a purchase and it asks if you want to pay by Klarna, stuff like that. And so I think true. Most things now you can sort of split the cost, and yes, it's still an initial outlay, but you're going to get your return of investment back so quickly, especially if you're switching from an ICE vehicle to an electric. You're talking a matter of months. You've made all the money back.
So have you got that written into the document as well, or into your comms and stuff like that?
The amount of savings that you can make, that is a because at the moment that is the only outlay, the initial outlay that the resident has
Is
to
that
make
charger?
is that charger and the install of it.
Yeah, yeah.
There is still the government grant available. I think I'm not sure when that runs out. I think it's the end.
No.
It's either the end of the year or the end of the tax year. It's usually the end of the tax year.
If
But
anybody's
whether they
got that,
choose to extend
yeah.
that, I
If you've
don't
got the
know.
opportunity, then
Yeah,
it's always good. But I mean, and it depends on where you buy the charger from, what you're
yeah,
getting, how
yeah,
much it costs, and all that kind of stuff. But I suppose if there's anything to kind of keep those costs down for people, like you said,
yeah,
I'm not saying that everybody who lives in a terraced house is kind of have got kind of different lower income, but it doesn't have to. There are lots of places or lots of people that do have lower income, and if they do want to move because actually they've seen a second-hand EV, actually it'll fit their needs. They've got a terraced house, or whatever. They haven't got a driveway, and they
yeah,
just want that charger, because if it costs you £3 to £5 to kind of charge it on an overnight rate, then my God, the benefits
yeah.
compared to using
Massive.
public charger, yeah,
Yeah,
it's enormous, isn't it?
yeah.
So the fact that you are covering that 57% as much as you possibly can is it's fabulous. Honestly,
Yeah.
it really is.
The only
I would,
time we sort of step in to advise on what charges people may or may not be able to have is when their property is one of those terraced properties, a bit like Coronation Street, where it's directly onto the pavement.
right,
So you open
okay,
your front door and you're onto the pavement, because then the charger is overhanging our
yeah,
highway.
oh,
So with that though, it's only size really. That's the only thing that we're concerned of, just to make sure that it's not encroaching onto the highway too much, and that there's still enough pavement left, even when the cable's attached to the box for people to get past easily without it being an inconvenience.
but I suppose in that case, they'll if there's lampposts around and there you can put a charger in you can use one of the lamppost chargers, then would that kind of help with that issue of them being straight onto the pavement? But then, I mean, I know it's still classed as public charging, and it's not quite as cheap as having your own
Yeah.
charger. But is that something that a resident can ask for if they
Wouldn't
can't
really
have
be a
it in
solution in
place?
Stoke because all our lampposts are at the back of the pavement.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, I think we've
Okay.
only got a handful of like the old, like heritage lampposts
Yeah.
where they're at the front
Okay.
of the highway, and yeah, so it's lamppost charging isn't really a thing in Stoke because we've never had to address it because
Because
it's a
of
problem
where
as
they
much
are.
as it's a solution.
I do know another, Shamala Gaggill from Coventry City
Oh yeah,
Council. I know what she's doing. She's working with a lamppost charging company, and one of the gully providers.
yeah,
So that because she's got some of those as well, where they're at the back of the pavement, and she's getting them to work together so that you can charge that way. But I suppose
yeah,
it's like you say, it's in certain environments, isn't it? In certain
yeah,
places you've got, but yeah, again, that's just a different kind of
yeah.
different
I mean,
kind of
and there's
solution.
plenty of chargers on the market that fit within our specified size
Yeah, yeah,
size restrictions as well.
yeah,
Yeah, and as gullies become more and more, these sort of regulations will become more prevalent, and the charger companies will start making more and more units that are compatible with being, because at the moment it's not a consideration they have to worry about. The EV charger companies have to worry about, but as soon as it becomes more commonplace, it will start to affect them. So
yeah,
they will want to create a product that complies and can be used in these properties, because otherwise it's a section of the market that they're not exploiting.
yeah, yeah. And going back to that inclusivity, we've got to try and make sure that that we include as many people as possible. I'm going to ask you one final question.
Oh yeah,
So, what lessons learned, there's going to be a lot of these, have you had that you can share with anybody who's watching at the moment, watching or listening? What is your biggest lesson learned from this? If you could just say one thing that you kind of go, this is the biggest thing that I've learned, just to take away.
The biggest one would be for anybody considering doing this in their authority, would be to steal homework. It's plagiarism isn't a thing. And we're not in university anymore. Plagiarism doesn't matter. It's other people have already done the hard work. Not just me, other people. So by all means, steal our homework. Just because all of us are willing to share anyway. I certainly know I am. And like I say, Oxfordshire and Nottinghamshire have been very helpful in the early stages as well. So it's, just steal somebody's homework. Just make life easy for yourself.
I think that's a really good point. That is a really good point. So for those of you watching, listening, I really hope that you can kind of share this information that Pete's kind of given us here. And like I say, I'll share as much as I can in the show notes, definitely, because. And I hope you didn't mind me, Pete, asking you to break down some of that, because there were technical things in there that people don't always you don't understand about these things unless you've kind of been involved in it.
Yeah.
But it's been really, really interesting talking to you, and
It's been lovely chatting to you.
I can't wait to see some of the comms that you put out. And make sure that you share them with us when
we'll do.
when you're putting these comms out. I want to see these gullies going in, because actually, the fact that you're leading the way as a council, with using all four different providers and doing this yourself.
Yeah, all four simultaneous, doing everything ourselves. It's sort of the extreme end of the spectrum, I suppose, of what LAs can do as an option. It's just great. So, well, listen, thank you. It's just been it's been great, and you're just a lovely guy to chat to. I'm sure everybody will have sussed that one out as well, and really kind of open and honest. So I really appreciate you talking to me. Yeah, no worries at all, and I'll probably see it in an event sometime soon again anyway. And
definitely.
End up on the same train or something.
Well, there's that. So, to everybody watching and listening, I'm going to say thanks to Pete. Thanks to you all. Please do, as I usually ask, please have a look on our podcast page on LinkedIn. We've got, obviously, the YouTube channel. Michelle, who's wonderful, who kind of does all the shorts and stuff, so check out some of the shorts. Anything you can do to spread the word, please do it. But now I'm going to say thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're a charge point operator, local authority or stakeholder in EV charging, I'd love to talk to you about our Charge Point Evolution framework. It's designed to help you create a seamless EV driver journey, boost utilisation and maximise your return on investment. Alternatively, if you know someone who'd be a great podcast guest or might be interested in sponsoring an episode, you can email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks again for watching.